My partner endured a horrific assault that left her pregnant, and when she decided to keep the baby despite everything, I ended our relationship because I knew I couldn't raise a child that would forever remind us both of that trauma. Am I truly the villain here, or was I simply protecting myself from an unbearable future? My partner endured an assault and subsequently became pregnant. I ended our relationship because she wished to carry the child to term. This may sound incredibly harsh, but I implore you to understand the full context. I am a 30-year-old man caught in an utterly dire predicament. 2 months prior, my girlfriend suffered an attack within a park. She was unwilling to report it, collapsing into a profound emotional crisis. She refused all contact with law enforcement and declined medical attention. I could not compel her, so my focus became her immediate well-being. She remained in a severely distressed state, and I devoted myself to being present, offering solace and practical assistance. We engaged in therapy, and she was aware of my unwavering support. Given her history of depression, her fragile condition caused me immense apprehension. Her state was undeniably catastrophic. She consumed little and slept even less, frequently waking in the dead of night, overcome by tears or anguish. I remained steadfastly at her side, attentively listening and assisting her through every requirement. Occasionally, she would simply gaze at the walls for extended periods, lost within her own harrowing thoughts. We pursued counseling sessions together, striving to find a path through this complex ordeal. My paramount goal was for her to comprehend my absolute commitment. Her struggle with depression, exacerbated by this event, left me profoundly concerned. While I endeavored to project strength for her, there were moments I felt utterly bereft of control. The preceding week brought the revelation of her pregnancy. The instant we saw the confirmation, it felt as though the world itself had halted. A potent fusion of outrage, sorrow, and utter powerlessness engulfed me. I had been overseas for 2 months on business before the assault, returning prematurely to support her, so paternity was unequivocally out of the question. She was absolutely certain the conception was due to the attacker. We had desperately hoped for a false positive, but the diagnostic results were undeniable. This realization struck her with devastating force, plunging her into another emotional collapse. The cruel reality of this pregnancy, an incessant echo of that horrific night, was utterly rending her spirit. She felt ensnared, and I found myself at a loss for how to guide her from this torment. Consequently, we engaged in a pivotal discussion, among the most arduous conversations of our shared experience. She is a devout Catholic, and her convictions are central to her identity. Initially, we had agreed upon an abortion, perceiving it as the only viable path for her healing and moving forward. However, after speaking with her mother, everything shifted. Her mother unequivocally stated that under no circumstances should she terminate the pregnancy, declaring it a grave sin. Following this interaction, she resolved to carry the child, asserting its innocence in the circumstances and believing all life to be sacred, irrespective of its origin. I witnessed the profound conflict in her gaze, torn between her deeply held faith and the profound trauma she had endured. It was like witnessing her heart shatter once more. I plainly articulated that I could not participate in raising the child of the man who had violated her. The words felt stark, yet she needed to grasp my position. She wept and pleaded with me not to abandon her. Her distress was heartbreaking, and I detested seeing her in such anguish, but I could not recede from my stance. I communicated that the choice was hers alone. Either she kept the baby, and I would depart, or she underwent the abortion, and I would remain. I was unwilling to concede on this. I could not envision myself nurturing a child that would serve as a perpetual, agonizing reminder of the worst event she had ever faced. It felt like an impossible dilemma, but I needed her to understand my inability to compromise. The ultimate decision rested with her, but I had to be candid about my own capacity and limits. Since neither outcome was acceptable to her, I informed her our relationship was over. I feel utterly wretched. Was I in the wrong? Update 1. I'm presenting this update immediately, as events have progressed considerably since my last post. I'll then address common questions from the previous discussion and the numerous private messages received. Yesterday, I received a tearful call from my girlfriend, imploring me to listen. I assured her of my continuing affection and willingness to hear her out. She revealed that, in the days following our breakup, she had reached out to her mother, seeking solace and believing her mother would offer understanding. Apparently, prior to this, she had largely decided on an abortion, feeling it was the optimal path for healing and moving forward. Yet, her conversation with her mother altered everything. Her mother emphatically declared that abortion was a grave sin, to be regretted for life, and shockingly accused me of manipulating her into the decision, portraying me as the antagonist. Furthermore, her mother threatened to disown her if she went through with the procedure. These pronouncements cut deeply. My girlfriend felt ensnared, torn between her mother's severe judgment and her own profound trauma, overwhelmed and isolated by such disapproval. After I had left, my girlfriend had again contacted her mother to discuss the situation, hoping for comfort and clarity. She explained her desperate desire for an abortion, highlighting how the pregnancy was a constant, painful echo of the assault. But her mother remained unyielding, reiterating that abortion would mean the permanent severance of their relationship. My girlfriend dissolved into uncontrollable sobs on the phone, feeling more utterly alone than ever. Her mother persistently pressed her, demanding a decision, creating an agonizing dilemma between her psychological well-being and her familial ties. The call concluded with my girlfriend, choked by tears, admitting she was utterly lost. The weight of that ultimatum left her completely shattered and adrift. Then she began texting, her hands trembling as the gravity of her decision bore down. Finally, she sent her mother a message stating her intention to abort, clinging to a sliver of hope that her mother might offer understanding or, at minimum, a compassionate reply. Instead, the response was instantaneous and brutal. She was immediately blocked, entirely cut off without another utterance. The very person she had always depended upon in moments of need had unequivocally rejected her. My girlfriend then telephoned me, recounting the entire ordeal. She confirmed her abortion was scheduled for 3 weeks hence. We thoroughly discussed the events, agreeing completely that I had exerted no manipulation. We delved into every aspect, from the attack to her mother's coercive pressures. She expressed gratitude for my unwavering stance, acknowledging that my boundaries had provided her with clarity. She confessed that, without my firmness, she might have borne a child that would forever symbolize the darkest period of her life. Those were her precise words. She conveyed immense relief for my support through this agonizing choice, recognizing it as the correct path for us both, despite its inherent difficulty. She further declared me the most positive force in her life, asserting that even without her mother, she could face anything with me by her side. At this point, I broke down. My love for her is boundless, and witnessing her anguish had been unbearable. In truth, I likely would have returned to her and co-parented the child, despite knowing I would harbor deep resentment. I simply could not bear the prospect of losing her. I initiated the original discussion seeking affirmation, not merely input, to ascertain the righteousness of my decision. I craved external validation and reassurance that I wasn't a monster for setting such a stark boundary. The deluge of support and diverse perspectives helped me understand that maintaining my ground was vital for our shared future and her journey to overcome the trauma. I am profoundly relieved by this turn of events. And to any mother who prioritizes dogma over their own child, they are truly deranged fanatics. Now, to address several points from the previous discussion. Firstly, my girlfriend did not betray me. I am entirely convinced of this, not only due to her inherently gentle nature, but also because we are intimately familiar with each other's routines, and friends can corroborate our timelines. Furthermore, her roommate captured images of my girlfriend immediately upon her return home after the attack, unequivocally proving it was not rough sex, as some of you crass individuals suggested. Secondly, I could not care less if you consider abortion a transgression or the termination of a life. If you feel so strongly, then step up. Raise the child yourselves, provide us with financial support for its upbringing, or employ a full-time aide to cater to my girlfriend's every requirement during pregnancy. If you insist on such self-righteous pronouncements, then demonstrate your conviction through action, you sanctimonious imbeciles. Thirdly, my girlfriend was initially unequivocal in her desire to keep the baby, undoubtedly influenced by her mother. Fourthly, my sincere gratitude to everyone who affirmed my decision. It was truly arduous, and I am profoundly relieved by the outcome. Fifthly, regarding those who privately messaged me, branding me a monstrous child killer, I truly failed to comprehend the relevance of my recreational pursuits to this matter. Update 2. I had intended to post here again following the abortion, still scheduled for 2 weeks hence, but felt compelled to share recent developments from a mother seemingly sprung from the very abyss. This past Saturday, I opened my door to find 2 police officers. My heart instantly plummeted. They inquired about my identity, which I confirmed, a wave of anxiety washing over me, wondering the purpose of their visit. They then stated they were searching for my girlfriend. My voice somewhat unsteady, I called her over, and she appeared disoriented, bewildered, and frightened. The officer indicated a need to speak with her. My girlfriend's face paled, and palpable fear registered in her eyes. I strived for composure on her behalf, yet my own apprehension intensified. I stepped aside to admit the officers, hoping whatever this entailed would not exacerbate her already fragile state. The officers then separated. One led my girlfriend into the living room, while the other escorted me to my bedroom. The officer assigned to me began questioning me about my girlfriend's duration of stay, any contacts she maintained, or if she had left the residence. His inquiries seemed endless, each more intrusive than the last. I answered them all, endeavoring to remain composed despite my escalating frustration. I detected a distinct undertone of suspicion, which unsettled me. After providing further answers, I finally demanded to know the reason for their presence. The officer merely stated they had received a welfare check report concerning my girlfriend. My pulse quickened as I speculated on the source and motive of such a report. When I pressed for the identity of the informant, the officer declined, citing confidentiality. His reply left me even more agitated and perplexed, feeling as though we were under unwarranted scrutiny for circumstances beyond our control. After a period, the other officer concluded, and they both departed. The moment the door clicked shut, my girlfriend dissolved into tears. She recounted being explicitly asked if she was in danger, or if I had been harming her. The officers even inquired if she was being held against her will. She, of course, denied everything, but the interrogation had profoundly shaken her. She felt violated and terrorized. Then she divulged that her mother had contacted the police, alleging she might be in peril and that I could be abusive. The accusation struck me like a physical blow. I could not fathom her own mother stooping to such depths. It felt like a profound betrayal, and her attempt to weaponize law enforcement to sow discord between us ignited my fury. My girlfriend was devastated, caught between her loyalty to her mother and the harsh reality of our situation. I was absolutely incensed the moment she revealed her mother's actions. A torrent of rage surged within me. I was incredulous at her mother's audacity, making such vile accusations and attempting to involve the police in our private lives. I immediately declared my intention to press charges against her for harassment, likely, or anything to hold her accountable for this egregious behavior. I could not simply idly stand by and permit her to attempt to dismantle us in this manner. My girlfriend gazed at me with wide, tear-filled eyes, clearly conflicted between a desire to shield her mother and an understanding of my indignation. The betrayal cut deeply, and I felt an urgent need to retaliate against this profound injustice. My girlfriend implored me not to proceed, asserting it would simply dissipate with time and that her mother merely needed to regain composure. Such an outrageous notion. She dispatched the police to my home to have me arrested. How could that be considered rational thought? The sheer brazenness of it all left me reeling. An arrest or charges could jeopardize my employment, my career, my livelihood, everything I had meticulously built. Her baseless allegations threatened to shatter it all. What in the world was she thinking? It seemed she was striving to ruin both my life and our relationship in a single, devastating stroke. The ramifications were terrifying, and the realization that someone so intimately connected to my girlfriend could be so reckless and malicious defied comprehension. The cumulative burden pressed down on me, making me feel precariously balanced on the edge of a precipice. I informed my girlfriend that any future repetition of such behavior from her mother would undeniably lead to me pursuing legal action. Consequently, on Sunday, my girlfriend resolved to speak with her mother, urging her to cease such actions. Their conversation lasted merely 2 minutes before I began to hear sobs. I immediately entered the room to find my girlfriend weeping, still holding the phone to her ear. I gently took the phone from her hand and held her for a moment. Hearing a faint hello from the receiver, I then took the phone and declared, "You are a disgrace of a mother," before ending the call. I embraced my girlfriend for what felt like an hour before we could speak. Apparently, her mother had been telling her that if she proceeded with the abortion, she would be disowned by her mother and brother and even her deceased father, who was supposedly in heaven, despite having been a violent, alcoholic abuser of my girlfriend. But, of course, absolution at death, correct? All because my girlfriend would be destined for damnation. I told my girlfriend that if she was headed for perdition, she should reserve a spot for me, and we would be quite comfortable together. I cherish her smile. What do you believe, if anything, I should do about her mother? My words to her will undoubtedly provoke a reaction. Update 3. I merely wish to provide a final update to everyone on this entire saga. A few days prior, the abortion was successfully performed. In the weeks leading up to it, my girlfriend consulted with a counselor and discussed her reasons with a nurse. She also underwent testing for sexually transmitted infections, which thankfully came back clear. With all clearances confirmed, the procedure took place a few days ago. They employed the surgical method, involving vacuum aspiration to remove the pregnancy. My girlfriend reported it was relatively painless, and she was able to return home after only a few hours. Upon her arrival home, she wept incessantly. The floodgates of emotion burst open, unleashing a torrent of both anguish and profound relief. I held her close, sensing the immense burden of her feelings in every convulsion that racked her body. She confided that an enormous weight had been lifted, and for the first time in many months, I perceived a spark of hope in her eyes. She can now genuinely begin to rebuild her life. The oppressive weight of the unwanted pregnancy, that ceaseless echo of the attack, was finally gone. She expressed a feeling of being able to truly breathe again, remarking on how the shadows of that dreadful night were at last starting to recede. It marked the crucial first stride towards recovery, and although we recognized a long path lay ahead, this moment felt like a decisive turning point. When she returned home, her tears flowed ceaselessly, a cascade where all the accumulated pain and newfound relief intertwined. I embraced her tightly, absorbing the intensity of her emotions with each shuddering sob. She conveyed that a massive burden had dissolved, and for the first time in what felt like an eternity, I witnessed a fragile luminescence of hope in her gaze. She can genuinely now contemplate moving forward with her existence. The crushing weight of the undesired pregnancy, that perpetual, agonizing reminder of the assault, had at last vanished. She articulated how she finally felt she could inhale deeply, how the oppressive shadows of that terrible evening were commencing their retreat. It was the initial, vital step toward healing, and even knowing the extensive journey ahead, this instant felt like a monumental shift. When she came home, she continued to weep, the deep well of both sorrow and liberation emptying itself all at once. I held her firmly, feeling the full force of her emotions as her body was shaken by each sob. She spoke of feeling an immense weight lifted, and after months, I finally saw a flicker of promise in her eyes. She can genuinely now progress with her life. The burden of the unwanted pregnancy, the constant, haunting echo of the attack, was at long last gone. She told me she could finally take a full breath, how the oppressive shadows of that horrific night were finally beginning to dissipate. It was the crucial first step toward recovery, and though we knew the path ahead was long, this moment felt like a profound turning point. We took the entire week off from work, needing personal time to process everything and simply be together. Yesterday, we went camping. Of course, it rained, as is often our luck, but even the downpour couldn't dampen our spirits. We huddled intimately inside the tent, listening to the rhythmic patter of raindrops on the canvas. It felt wonderfully cozy and secure, a stark contrast to the tumult of recent months. Within the tent, she spoke openly about how challenging life could be. She disclosed her struggles, the profound pain, and the moments when she felt she simply could not continue. Yet, she also expressed genuine gladness for how things had ultimately transpired. Despite everything, she felt a profound sense of liberation and a newfound inner fortitude. She asserted that even though circumstances were dire, she had emerged on the other side, likely stronger than ever before. Her resilience astounded me, and I couldn't help but feel optimistic about our future. We understood that challenges would still arise, but in that moment, nestled together in our small tent, it felt like we could confront anything, so long as we had each other. She is an incredible person, truly. Update on the mother. My girlfriend recently received a call from her mother, who inquired about the abortion. My girlfriend and I have an established agreement. Should her mother call, she is to either hang up or pass the phone to me. We implemented this boundary to shield her from further emotional exploitation. In this instance, she answered out of ingrained habit and was speechless the moment she heard her mother's voice. She froze, wide-eyed and panic-stricken, then silently handed the phone to me. I took the device, bracing myself. Her mother immediately launched into a furious tirade, demanding confirmation of the abortion. I calmly informed her that the procedure had been completed flawlessly. The instant those words left my lips, she unleashed a torrent of vitriolic curses, her voice seething with malice. I allowed her to vent for approximately a minute, a faint, almost amused smile playing on my face at the sheer absurdity of it all. When she finally paused for breath, I calmly retorted, "How truly Christ-like of you," and ended the call. My girlfriend, incidentally, did not find my comment humorous. That concludes it. The silence that ensued was profound, yet it carried the weight of a small triumph. My girlfriend offered me a look filled with gratitude, a wave of relief visibly washing over her features. We knew her mother would not receive the news gracefully, but confronting her felt like reclaiming a portion of our autonomy. I wish everyone well in their own lives. Also, if you intend to send me insulting private messages, be advised, by your reckoning, I have already killed a baby. In your estimation, what are your thoughts on this narrative? Please share your perspective in the comments below.